It was meant to be the beginning of the offensive that would end it all. Finally, Putin was setting the stage to seize total control over the Donbass, aiming for a decisive victory that would force Ukraine to the negotiating table on his terms. But as the smoke clears over the fields of eastern Ukraine, it's becoming obvious that it hasn't gone the way the Kremlin imagined. Russian forces are panicking, fleeing positions they held for months, often before Ukraine's vanguard can even reach them. Thousands of soldiers never made it through the first wave, as Russia just suffered its deadliest day of the entire year. This catastrophic defeat would haunt Putin forever, if he actually had a soul. The spring offensive of 2026 is off to a disastrous start for Russia, and it's all due to a sophisticated, multi-layered defensive strategy by Ukraine. This past week saw a massive, unprecedented spike in Russian losses. Uncoincidentally, this is the same week Russia launched its grand spring-summer offensive intended to break the Donetsk Fortress Belt. This stretch of cities is not just a geographic line. It is a vital psychological and tactical barrier that Russia must overcome if they hope to occupy the Donetsk region entirely. To the north sit Slovyansk and Kramatorsk. According to the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, these two cities serve as the beating heart of Ukraine's logistics in the east. They are the hubs through which fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements flow to the hottest sectors of the front. To the south, the belt continues through Konstantinovka, Druskivka, and Oleksievo-Druskivka. Together, these cities represent a fortress line that Ukraine has been reinforcing for over a decade. Putin needs to topple these strongholds to claim any resemblance of victory, but right now, his generals are hitting a brick wall made of steel and high-tech surveillance. The spring of 2026 was supposed to be Putin's redemption year. Instead, Ukraine's commander-in-chief, Oleksandr Syrskyi, reported a surge in clashes that the world hasn't seen since the early days of the invasion. Syrskyi explained that between March 17th and 20th, the intensity of enemy assaults increased dramatically. The Russian command attempted to overwhelm Ukrainian defenses in several strategic directions simultaneously, conducting a staggering 619 assault actions in just 96 hours. When you throw 150 assaults a day at a defensive line, you expect breakthroughs, but they didn't come. Russia failed to achieve almost every operational goal set by Putin. Instead of a glorious breakthrough, the world witnessed the deadliest week of the war in 2026. By the way, if you find this level of military analysis valuable, subscribe to Global Briefing right now. We monitor the front lines 24/7 to bring you the facts that mainstream media often misses. Also, leave a comment below. Do you think Russia's reliance on meat wave tactics is a sign of desperation or a calculated, albeit brutal, long-term strategy? We read every single comment. The most painful day for the Russian military was March 17th. According to the Telegraph, Ukraine neutralized 1,710 Russian troops in a single 24-hour window. The hardware losses were equally staggering: 29 artillery systems destroyed, along with 230 vehicles and fuel tankers. An attempted surge in the Zaporizhia direction was completely dismantled before it could even deploy its main force. Ukraine's unmanned systems forces, the first branch of its kind in the world, had a banner day. Out of those 1,710 casualties, 900 were attributed directly to drone strikes. This is the new face of war. When you realize that Russia's average daily loss had been between 700 and 900, jumping to over 1,700 proves the offensive has officially begun, and it's failing. Putin isn't using new tactics or brilliant maneuvers. He is deploying the only idea he has: send more cannon fodder into the meat grinder. But why is the meat grinder so effective now? There are three revolutionary factors at play. First, the search and destroy asymmetric approach. Syrskyi recently noted that the scale of Russian assaults forced Ukraine to adopt new tactics. These are small, highly mobile, hunter-killer units. They don't just sit in trenches. They actively hunt Russian infiltration groups. Using thermal-equipped drones, they find small squads of Russian soldiers trying to sneak into Ukrainian positions. Once found, they are isolated and eliminated with surgical precision. We saw this in action when Ukraine shattered Putin's claims of occupying Kupiansk. Ukraine responded by deploying these units to root out every single Russian soldier who had managed to hide in the city's outskirts. Second, the deep strike campaign. Throughout early 2026, Ukraine has ramped up its strategic rot campaign. The goal? Destroy the Russian war machine before it even reaches the front. A prime example is the Flamingo drone missile hybrid. This weapon represents a massive leap in Ukrainian engineering. On February 20th, a Flamingo strike hit a missile factory in Votkinsk, deep inside Russia, over 1,400 kilometers from the border. By taking out factories and air defenses deep in the rear, Ukraine forces Russia to pull its protection away from the front lines, leaving their assaulting troops exposed. Third, the FPV kill zones. Ukraine has industrialized drone production. Since the summer of 2025, production capacity has been scaling toward millions of units annually. Now, the sky above the front line is constantly buzzing. It's a drone-infested environment where no Russian tank or soldier is safe for more than a few minutes. On March 20th, an FPV drone even took down a K-52 alligator attack helicopter, one of Russia's most expensive aerial assets. When FPV drones can hunt million-dollar helicopters and entire tank columns, the traditional tank charge becomes a suicide mission. However, the biggest factor shattering Putin's plans was the Ukrainian Southern Counteroffensive. Starting in February 2026, Ukraine launched a lightning strike through Russian positions in the south and southeast. By early March, President Zelensky confirmed the recapture of over 460 square kilometers. This wasn't just about gaining territory, it was about destroying Putin's buffer zone. Russia wanted a buffer in the Dnipropetrovsk region to protect its logistical lines. Instead, Ukraine seized the initiative, forcing Russia to divert reserves meant for the Donetsk offensive just to prevent a total collapse in the south. This double front pressure has left Russian commanders in a state of paralysis. To make matters worse, Russia has lost access to hundreds of illicit Starlink terminals. Without reliable high-speed communication, the Russian meat wave tactics become even more chaotic. Commanders are ordering weakened forces into battle because they are too afraid to tell the Kremlin that the offensive is dead. As we look toward the summer of 2026, the stage is set. Russia is burning through 8,000 soldiers a week for zero territorial gain. The grand offensive has become a grand tragedy for the Russian people, fueled by a leader who refuses to listen to his own military bloggers. The tide is turning, and we may be witnessing a breakthrough as significant as the liberation of Kharkiv in 2022. Thank you for watching Global Briefing. Don't forget to like this video if you found it informative and subscribe with notifications turned on. Your engagement helps us continue our mission of providing high-quality military reporting. Stay tuned and stay informed. Together to victory.